artist that lives in Grenada, Mississippi, and I'm also an artist that loves nature, and I love to explore nature in my art making process. So I want to introduce to y'all something I particularly love. I call it earth color, and it involves both plants and minerals, and looking for those things around you. And the fancy word for looking for stuff is foraging. So the first thing I want us to do is work with the minerals. Now when I say mineral, I really mean dirt. And dirt is all around us. It's under all the grass in your yard, and you may even have a ditch or a creek near you that it's real clear what the dirt is and what color it is and what it feels like. And some of the best dirt to use for this is called clay. It's kind of hard when it's dry, but it's really soft, squishy, and slippery when it's wet. In fact, I'm going to come over there and show y'all. So this is a jar of some dirt, clay, mineral that I found when I was driving down the road the other day, and the pinkish color caught my eye, and so I stopped and I always keep a trowel with me, and I dug it and put it in this jar. So you're not confined to what's in your yard, but it's fun to play with what you have around you as well. So first of all, let me introduce you to what I have on the table. Now, it is not necessary to have all of this stuff, but I'm just going to try to show you some different things you could use to make this fun. Well, first of all, when it comes to working with your dirt, the most fun part of this, almost more than making art with it, is the processing. And the first part of that is crushing it into a powder. And you can use something called a mortar and a pestle, and I have two different kinds here. A lot of people use them in the kitchen. These are dedicated for art making, but most minerals are, there's nothing wrong with using something you might use in the kitchen. But if you're afraid you might break it, it's always handy to have a wooden one. Actually, these came from Big Lots for $5. If you don't have a mortar and pestle and not sure you want to go that far, you can always just use a rock. Most of us know where some gravel is somewhere. Maybe you even have a gravel driveway, and it's kind of fun to walk around your driveway feeling for a rock and getting one that kind of feels good. It doesn't even have to be this big. And then you can use even like a paper plate. So let's put a little mineral out here, and we'll do the paper plate first. The idea is you just want to crush it into enough of a powder. First you crush, then you grind. Those are the two movements that you're going to do. Paper plates are kind of nice because you can, make them like a taco and get your pigment back in the middle. And all right. So now let's try it in the mortar and pestle, which I must say is, well, especially if you have a tough rock, a mortar and pestle is really handy. So, or if you're going to do a larger quantity, or maybe you want to take it to the next level with some paint making, because what we're doing is not exactly paint making, but it's kind of the precursor to paint making. And so this is a really relaxing process, and I really recommend that you set up and get comfortable and really enjoy this part of the process. It's really fun to watch what you thought was just dirt turn into a beautiful powdered pigment. And I don't know if y'all can see this, but it's already looking really fine, and in fact much finer than this because I can put more pressure on it. So if you pound too hard when it's a powder, you're going to get all these puffs of the powdered pigment up in your face. And that's probably fine just a little bit, but nothing different than driving around our dirt road, because this is what's in our dirt road. But you really don't want to breathe a lot of powder of any sort. So it's probably best to stir and grind once it's in the powder phase. You no longer need to pound. All right, so now for part two. Once you have powdered your pigment, sifting will help you get it to even finer particles. But we're just going to use this little sifter that's from a thrift store that would be used in the kitchen. So you can pour it in, or maybe if that's messy, you can use a spoon. But I'm going to put all this down in there, if y'all can see that. And sometimes you got to be a little careful. It wants to hop out of the sifter, and you can kind of tap it on the edge. But as you get towards the end, especially, you're going to hop out the bigger particles. So whatever's left, and this is what's left, you just pour it back in, maybe for a little more grinding. So that's some pretty pigment right there. Look at all that nice pink. All right, y'all. So that's a nice little pile of pigment, and though it doesn't look like much, that'll make a lot of paint. So let's try one more, and we're going to use this. This is a ceramic mortar and pestle, and this will actually make a little bit finer pigment. Now, as I was driving along the road, I found another cool pigment, and it's this yellow it's a little bit harder. And if you can find a rock and it will break in your hand like this, it's very likely it'll make a nice pigment. And it'd be really hard to grind a rock that hard. So let's see here. Here we go. See, it's coming along. You see all that, without much effort, this is really powdering down. Though I'm really going to have to pound. Alright. I could keep doing that a minute, but we're going to go ahead and see what this looks like sifted out. Alright, so part number 3 is just trying it with some sort of a medium. And we're just going to simply use water. And water is not how you would need a binder to be actual paint, but you don't need that. You can just use water to play around. So you're going to need a little bit of water for this. And if you have a few other little containers about that size, it'll be handy for your pigment. If you don't, you can use the paper plate or any plate. It doesn't matter at all. I like to also use shells for my pigment. So I'm going to put just a little bit of pigment in this shell. And I'm going to put a little pigment in this shell. Now you could definitely there is no reason you cannot put this directly on the plate. And I'm going to move this out of the way. And so at this point, we're just going to see what this might look like. Now, my favorite paper to use is this watercolor pad by Canson. It's found at Walmart. It's about $6 for 30 sheets. And it is just a great pad of paper for this. It won't wrinkle when it's wet, but it's not so expensive that you feel like you can't just have a lot of fun. Because this is all about fun and exploring your environment. So the first thing you want to do before you even try to get too creative is you just got to figure out, how does this work? So this is how I like to use it. And there's no rules, y'all. This is dirt. I like to use my fingers a lot. So let's try that first. First, I just dip my fingers, get them a little bit wet. And then I like to dip my finger into the powdered pigment. And let's just see what color we got. Ooh, that's beautiful. Now, this works pretty much like watercolor. When you add water, it gets lighter. When you add pigment, it gets darker. So, the first thing you do is just see what you got. And you can have fun making textures and just really play. This is all about experimenting and play. You do have to wash your hands, but I just keep a little bowl and I keep my fingers. When your fingers are your paintbrush, you got to keep them clean. Let's try this other yellowy color. All right, ooh, look at that. It's beautiful. Y'all, this is just Mississippi dirt that I found in a ditch. We've got some beautiful colors around our state. And there's nothing wrong with trying to see what happens when you mix them. Now, I do recommend, try not to mix them in your containers or on your plate. Mix them on your paper. I'm going to put a little bit of both near each other. And now we're going to make a third color. Let's see what that looks like. All right. Let's make some more marks in there. I'm always playing and trying to figure out how to get the most out of these sorts of pigments. Now, if fingers aren't your way, there's you know, brushes of any size work great depending on how you want to work. I like these natural bristle brushes also. These are like 99 cents maybe at Walmart, and but really anything works. And same procedure, you want to get your brush wet, you want to dip it in your pigment, and go for it. Let's get a little bit smaller brush here. Now you can, of course, add water into your shell and mix it around and maybe get it a paste or watercolor, a lot of it. I'm a person who doesn't like a lot of water or like to control my water, so I like to keep it kind of dry so I can control how dark or light things get. All right, well I'm liking this experiment. I'm loving what's happening as I'm letting gravity, since I'm holding this up for y'all, gravity is pulling this water down and doing some really fun stuff. And I recommend you play with some gravity, holding it up and laying it down. All right, so now for part 2. We're going to go find some plants to work with, and we're going to keep this part real simple. And I just want to show you what's available in your yard. Plants make their own pigments, and I think that is so cool. But just because a plant makes a pigment, which is the color, it's what makes them have a color that you can see. It doesn't mean that plant wants to give it to you easily. Some plants will work better than others because they're soft. That's generally the sign that they're going to work with you. So we're going to go around the yard and see what we can find, and generally you want to gently touch the petals of some of the flowers, and if they're soft, that's a good indication that they're going to be awesome for paint. Let's go. Right, look at this. Knockout roses, I know actually work really good. So let's definitely get a rose or 2. You might can even get, let's get this older rose that's gone. Let's see if they're different or, now I will say, you may want to make sure you ask whoever gardens in your family if it's okay for you to get some flowers out of the yard, and they may have an opinion on which flowers to get. So I'm going to actually get that one too. He's kind of starting to die. All right, let's see what else we can find. All right, let's see what we got here. You don't have to always know what a flower is to use it. I think that's called dianthus, and I've never tried this one before. Let me see. Let's see here. It looks nice though. It feels soft, and that's a rich color, so I have high hopes for that. All right, so here's what we got. Now, the first thing I do is to sort of arrange things just to see what I have. And then, once again, we're just going to play. Let's see what we have. Let's see how this is going to work. Because if something works well, we may go back for more. So, all right. To me, this works best if you'll get a lot of petals. And since this is already in a bunch, and y'all know roses have prickles on them, so sometimes you have to be a little careful getting things. I'm going to carefully just hold the soft part, and let's see here. All right. The first time I did this, I was surprised that it was purple instead of red. But, all right, let's see. Here we have our, let's move this off. Here we have this little petunia-looking plant. Once again, I'm going to get several in my hand, and I'm going to kind of get them in a bundle where there's going to be a lot of pigment right there. And ooh, that's even a deeper purple. Ooh, look at it changing color. It's actually almost getting gray, isn't it? Ooh, that's cool. Definitely make sure you can see, just take the time to enjoy watching. Plant pigments will change once they get in the atmosphere and the air and maybe the chemistry in the... And the cool thing is, plants have their own water in them. Did y'all notice I did not dip them in the water? I simply crushed their cell walls and the water inside the plant mixed with the pigment and went straight on my paper. So we did not need to dip our plant in any water. So now we've experimented. We've gotten some mineral colors and we've gotten some plant colors that now we can play with and maybe try a little bit of art. All right, y'all, so we're about to do a little art project, and you may use cardstock or this watercolor paper. I highly recommend the watercolor paper, but you definitely need something heavier like cardstock or watercolor paper to do this project. So what we're gonna make a mask, and it's gonna be like an animal mask, maybe a little Mardi Gras style, and that it's maybe just gonna be for the eyes and the, maybe covering the nose. Yeah, I'm gonna let you invent it. All right, so I think the first thing I'm going to do here is draw my mask. So, because this table's got a crack in it, I'm going to give myself a base here. I'm going to draw, I think I'm going to make maybe an owl. Not sure what it's going to be, but it's going to have ears. I may even use this leaf here as a part of my design. We'll see. To use my hands. Let's see this. Let's see what color this color that I found in the yard is. It's okay. I know I'm going over my eye holes, but we're going to cut those out later. I just kind of wanted to think about where they were. Y'all don't have to use this technique. I'm just doing a mask the way I want to do it. We're going to cut this out later, so it doesn't really matter how messy you get. Now, I'm going to let this dry for a little while, and then when it's dry, I may add a few more things, and then I'm going to cut it out and see what kind of owl I look like.